Whoa, how are we people? Now, this is a very strange time to stream, I know. This is not a Q&A or form check. It is currently 10:45 in Sydney. That's right. I'm streaming from my hotel room in Sydney. I've been a pretty bad YouTuber because apparently what YouTubers are meant to do is they are meant to, you know, take videos and vlog and, stick cameras in people's faces, which I didn't end up doing. I was just, one, I was busy. Two, I was very much captivated by what's happening at the KSL seminar. So it didn't really occur to me that I should be filming things. So I've taken a few photos. I think tomorrow I'll do some more B-roll footage and I'll just, wave my camera around everywhere. But it's been really good so far. So thought I'd, before I go to sleep, I'd do a bit of a live stream to you guys. Share what I've learnt so far. And have a bit of a chat to you guys and take questions while we're at it. So, just for those who don't know what's happening, I'm at the KSL International Seminar. That's Kisik Lee. So, for those who don't know, Kisik Lee is pretty much one of the most well-known coaches in the world. He used to be a Korean national coach, used to be the Australian national coach, and is the current American national coach. And many of you know him, if not through his coaching, then through his work in developing coaching technique. So the most well-known one is the KSL shot cycle, which in America is the NTS or the best system. So quite a few people have been asking about NTS and the technique behind that. I haven't been in the best position to speak about it myself because I've read his books, but I've been trained in that method. But that's changed. I now had the chance to work with Kisik Lee in person. He's presented the first day so far. It's been half a day. And we're doing more of this tomorrow and Friday. And there'll be an exam. I think the exam's meant to be Saturday, but I think they're trying to push it to Friday. So we'll see how that goes. But apparently you need a 90% pass rate to get your certification. So that's been really good. By the way, yes, happy birthday to me. I completely forgot it was my birthday today. It might seem a little weird, but yes, it is my birthday. I've just been too busy traveling and flying and doing seminars and stuff. So yeah. So by the way, hi everybody. Nice if you enjoy me at the moment. Not sure where you are. It is a little late in Australia, but if you're elsewhere in the world or you're watching this on demand, and hopefully this is still relevant to you. I am streaming on my phone, so the quality might be a little dodgy. But this is kind of like my live reflection. So, what's happened is that I've taken a lot of notes in this exercise book. I brought my own leather exercise book, which I got as a gift from my students, but I didn't end up using it. So I've got this. And I've taken quite a lot of notes. What I thought I'd do is I'm going to go through some of the topics that we've covered, and there's no fancy presentation here. I'm just going through my handwritten notes. I'm just going to use this as a chance to revise myself. So we've learnt the introduction to basics of the KSL shot cycle and the principles. We talked through quite a few interesting things, and I'm going to use this chance to study up on what I've learned so far. Many of the things are on the exam. I don't know what's what, obviously. There's some hints. But there will be a pretty big exam at the end. And I want to ace it, of course. That's the standard we have here. It's funny because as a teacher, I make my kids do this. But now I'm doing it myself. Look at me, I've got this fancy like mind maps and diagrams. It's like pretty plain PowerPoint slides, but I've got this really fancy note-taking system. So there are a few questions in chat before. I'm not ignoring you. I don't have the chat live. Hey, now I do. Let's see. So I'm on my phone. I've got my chat running here. There we go. So question from Jev O'Neill. How heavy is my draw weight on my recurve bow? 36 pounds. I think on my fingers might be a little lower, might be about 34, 35, but about 36 pound on my current bow. My other bow, my original win and win bow, It was about 40 pound the limbs, but about 36 the fingers. So about 36 either way. And what arrow do I use? Dinishe. I currently use the Eastern Carbon ones. They're a mid-range arrow. I used to use the Eastern ACEs as my main arrow. I used to use Eastern X10s. Those are top end. Pretty much every Olympic archer uses X10s. I've broken most of mine because I suck, and you really don't want to use X10s in practice unless you really have to. But I've got X10 still. I do need to replace the set at some point, but they're really expensive. Look at about $40 per arrow, and you have to buy a dozen at a time. So not very pleasant. But I currently use Eastern Carbon ones as my general practice arrow at the moment. James, when can we expect an updated Olympic form? Me in person? Well, I guess once I get back to Melbourne. I didn't bring my bow this time around. It would have made sense because Sydney Olympic Park Arches or SOPA is basically around the corner. Not really walking distance, but you can easily get there. If I brought my bow, I would have practiced on the range. It's actually a pretty open access. We're free to shoot there. Didn't actually know. I did know. I was really hesitant to bring my bow because I could have brought on the plane here. Shouldn't have been a problem. But I was thinking, I've got a few things planned. I might be meeting with people, going for dinner, meetups. I'm actually meeting up with Ahmed Karat from Maidan Archery this weekend. So we had some pretty loose plans. I think I'm going to see him on Saturday and then join him at the club on Sunday. So I'll have both the Kisik Lee experience as well as the Maidan Archery experience. So it's quite a great double whammy of an archery experience up here. But because of that, I thought, no, it isn't really worth bringing my bow if I'm only going to shoot it like once. It's only like 4 days. I'm gone. I'm not going to miss archery that much. As much as I want to apply what I've learned, I don't think it's really necessary too much. That said, it's a cheeky thing. Not sure if Ahmed's watching this, but I did sneak a bow in my backpack. I brought the the mini horsebow. This is the thing. So this is the only bag I can fit in my backpack. So I brought it along. I'm not sure if the guys at Maydan will appreciate the humor, but I did bring all my thumb rings and stuff. But I do have my mini horsebow here. My strings over here. Gonna get out my bag somewhere. But it's been a pretty funny experience so far. Where's my string? That is a charger. I swear the string's here somewhere. Not that it matters too much. But the joke needs to keep going. Oh well, I'll probably find it later. It'd be pretty awkward to have brought a bow without the string. But it's here somewhere. Into the power tank. Oh, here it is. Got it. Let's string the horse bow if I can do that properly. I'm actually pretty bad stringing this, but let's see how it works. You gotta use a step through, but yeah, let's step through. I'll just jam it to my ribs. Put pressure on it. I was practicing this morning because I wasn't sure if I could do it by hand, but there we go. Whoa. This is, by the way, not a toy. This is a pretty decent recurve bow. So I've reviewed this already, by the way. This is the Ali bow, tiny bow. So I am prepared to practice my Turkish archery using a bow. But that's not why I'm here. So that's there for now. So yeah, that's cool. How am I? I'm well, thank you. Guitar Girl, how much was the seminar? 500, I think. I think it says 600 on the website. I think the price I actually paid was 500. So yeah, $500 for the seminar. It's like 3 to 4 days. And you can go level 1, 2, or 3 depending on how much experience you've had with NTS or KSL. And the way it's structured is that if Kisik Lee's international certification, it's an independent certification. Now, if you're doing this I guess in America, you have a different coaching system. You have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But as an international accreditation, which may or may not be recognized by official organizations, Kisik Lee has his own system. So, as a level 1, you've learnt the KSL shot cycle. I can basically test yourself and examine that you can explain all the principles. The level 2 is your ability to teach the KSL shot cycle to an archer. And the level 3 is the ability to teach another coach the KSL shot cycle. Um, Hunting bow, is there any new regulation for bear bow division? I'm not sure if you've read the recent change in world archery. I want to cover this in a video at some point, but bear bow is now an official world archery discipline. This may seem weird because many people shoot bear bow already, but understand that in world archery, the only discipline in which bear bow actually exists is field archery, field and 3D, which share a similar rule set. So field and 3D define a bear bow. And I'm not talking about traditional bear bow, I'm talking about modern bear bow with metal risers, string walking, and so on. So with world archery, they have this division for field and 3D, but not for indoor and outdoor. And this is important because most organizations of archery, as far as I know, do have bear bow in their normal target competitions, and they normally adopt the World Archery field and 3D rules for bear bow onto outdoor indoor target. But World Archery themselves don't define a bear bow division in target indoor outdoor. Now, the recent change is that they now do have a bear bow division, which means that in official world archery competitions, we can expect to see compound, recurve, and now bear bow. And as far as I understand, the bear bow competition is going to be a 50-meter round on the larger 122 centimeter face. So standard recurve is 70 meters on the 122 face. Compound is 50 meters on the 80 centimeter target center. And bear bow, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is 50 meters on the big 122 centimeter face. And the idea being, of course, with bear bow, it's not going to be as precise and consistent as Olympic recurve. So they normally compete at a shorter distance for that competition. So it will be exciting to see bear bow. Bear bow is very much a competitive division. The people good at bear bow are very good at bear bow. It's not the same kind of bear bow as traditional bear bow. So if looking at old-fashioned Robin Hood style longbows, then you won't be seeing that in Olympic competition. At the moment, the only Olympic format is Olympic recurve. But in future world archery events, and hopefully this will come down to the national and grassroots level, we should also see a bigger increase in the amount of bear bow shooters. I think that's a really underrated category. I personally think that modern bear bow, with the rule set we have right now, is a good compromise between shooting without aids and accessories, but at the same time allowing people to practice and use the techniques for precision shooting. And I understand that sport archery isn't the same as practical archery or military archery. It's not about shooting powerful arrows and using speed shooting. It's about getting the most precise shot possible. And that means the rule set will allow you to do that. And I think bear bow, it's a very unconventional way to shoot. It isn't the original way to shoot, by the way. Traditional bear bow is mostly instinctive. Modern bear bow is a sighting method using the arrow, using string walking. But yeah, I'm in a closet. No, I'm not in a closet. I'm in a hotel room. I just picked up the part which is the least glary because I just, that's the window, by the way. Look, it's no closet, it's a window. We can look outside if you want to. but I just have to be here. So maybe next time. I don't mind doing one of these each night because I've got some downtime each night. While I'm meeting people and doing things, it'd be nice to kind of do this. I might do a different location next time. I'm using my mobile data, so it's not a big problem there. So I'm here in the hotel room. It's like nearly midnight. But maybe next time I'll hang out in the park somewhere. Real nice place outside, and hopefully tomorrow won't be any smog from the bushfires. Do niche again. What motivation to do archery? Personal progress. People ask me a lot. I don't really have an extended answer anymore. I think the best answer is it's personal satisfaction, personal progress. Archery as a sport is something which, as an individual, you own everything. It's not a competitive sport where you compete against somebody else. Not in the sense where you have, like, say, tennis or badminton, where the result is affected by both you and the opponent. With archery, it's just you. You're competing against yourself, and I like that ownership. Every mistake you make is your mistake, but every success you make is your success. You can't credit or blame somebody else for the way you shoot. I think that accountability and that perfectionism is what kind of really clicks with me. That's my motivation mostly. Um, Sorry, Cassie, is there a trad longbow division? Not in target archery. So in world archery rules, in 3D archery, yes, there is. So there is a division for trad longbow. It does cover things like the definition of a longbow. That means the basic definition is the string can't be touching the limb. So if it's touching the limb, it's a recurve. If it's not touching the limb, it's a longbow. And there are some weird things around that. It also covers the kind of equipment used. So things like tabs and gloves are okay, but the material of the arrows must be wood, I believe, for trad longbow. That's caused some controversy because a lot of trad shooters use carbon as a better alternative and a modern material. But the traditional definition is actually wooden arrows. They also have rules about how you grip the string. So in modern bear bow, you can string walk, so you can sight the bow by using your fingers up and down the string. Well, this is really useful right now. But with the trad longbow, it strictly defines that you must make contact with the arrows. There's an arrow right here. You can't string walk. You must make contact with the arrow. I'm not sure if I'm correct here, but I think the actual rules say you must use split finger. You can't use three under. You must have split finger. Therefore, one finger above the arrow, two below. It must be done that way. So that's the trad longbow division. That's the rule set in 3D and field. Again, some organizations will use this rule set for target archery as well. At the moment, there is no official division for trad longbow. James Smith, if your knock is too big, then if you pull your bow back, there is a chance a knock will come off the string when you release. Yeah, dry fire, that can hurt. Jeff, do I find Turkish archery interesting? Very much so. It is a martial form of archery, so the approach they take is different from target archery. In fact, one of the things we talked about in our seminar today with Kisik Lee is the difference mentality from many Western cultures where people want to get immediate results. They want to do archery for an hour and start hitting bullseyes. Whereas in Eastern cultures, and we talked about in the Korean society, for example, you don't shoot a bow for 3 months. And so when you're 12 years old, you're in junior high school, you have to practice technique on a stretching band for 3 months before you even touch a bow. And this is very similar to other things. So in Turkish archery, the archer must be able to pull the bow 400 times on both sides, by the way, left hand and right hand. So that will make them prepared with the correct technique and conditioning to do archery. So that's what I like about the Turkish style. It's more martial rather than immediate rewards. It sets strong foundations for people to develop and acquire more skill later on. So that's why I'm going to be very happy to go back to Maidan later this week. I was invited by Ahmed to come back to Maidan. He was down in Melbourne last time, so I'm going to see him in Sydney right now. So that'd be awesome. Um, Let's see. And yeah. All right. So we'll save the questions for later. What I want to do is to go through some of the stuff I've learned today. So this is my revision. I'm a good boy. I'm a good student and a good teacher. Hopefully, I'm actually going to model how to revise. So I've got some fancy diagrams here. Again, I don't have the slides or any visuals. I'm just going to talk through what I've learned as a conversation. If you have any questions, just chuck it in chat and I'll have a look a bit later. But let's see what we've had so far. So we've covered quite a lot of things. This is only half a day. We've covered a lot of things in this session, and tomorrow's gonna be a lot busier, I guess. We covered an entire shot cycle in detail, which I've already studied, thankfully. But it'll be really intense. So, what's happened on day one? Let's see. So, first thing we talked about was the high performance program. So Kisik Lee talked about the goals of a high performance program. I understand that most archery associations have some kind of high performance program. This is basically targeting the elite individuals, the people who are gonna go out there and win gold medals. So the goals of a high performance program, according to Kisik Lee's breakdown, is one to win to win Olympic Games, to win World Championships, but it's also there to sustain performance. And what he meant by that was to continue to encourage athletes to perform well, not just a one-off, but to keep on winning. It's also to implement a system or a method, basically. So a high performance program is there to create a repeatable and consistent system. So that way, it's not just a fluke. We have one person who's really, really good, but they want to create a process, a procedure where you can get more people in the system and teach them the skills which work. It's also to help the people that involves upskilling athletes and coaches, and therefore raise national performance. It's also to address funding, and that's to fund the development of archers and also to retain archers. And there's a problem with many organizations and national teams and even just grassroots that archers tend not to stay in the sport. Part of cost, time, commitment, lack of progress, and so on. And finally, to instill a strong philosophy. So that includes the passion and pride and patriotism. And that's a core part of the High Performance program is to instill a sense of high passion, a lot of pride, to instill that culture of high performance. Um, so another part he touched on was the Olympics. And the way that Kisik Lee described the Olympic Games is that the Olympic Games is more of survival games. And he drew comparisons to the Hunger Games, where it isn't necessarily the best archer, but the archer who is the last survivor. The ranking rounds and knockout rounds, that sort of thing, that sort of mentality really plays havoc with how people shoot, how people prepare. The ability, and from what we saw, we had the interviews of the archers at the Rio Games, and a lot of them talked about like relief. It wasn't so much achievement, but it's about relief. They practice every day, every night. It's a lot of emotional investment, therefore pressure to perform. Now, something else he touched on was the correlation between um, nations who win medals compared to the size of their memberships. And you would think like a country like the USA, for example, with lots of archers, will win more medals. High population country like Korea will win lots of medals, hence why they're so dominant. And it's actually a bit of a myth here. And he compared some stats. I wrote some things down here. So, in looking at officially registered members, Korea only has 1,450 members. However, they've won 39 medals in World Archery events and 15 team medals. So they've dominated. And we know this, by the way. We know there is that myth of Korean invincibility. I have seen a Korean miss once, but yeah, like the point is like they've got one of the smallest officially registered numbers in their archery teams, but they have the largest proportion of medals. In contrast, France has 77,000 members, but they've won three medals plus one team medal. And the midline is the USA, 16,000 registered members for 16 medals and 14 medals. So it isn't necessarily the biggest country, the biggest population that wins more medals. And the thing which is highlighted in this conversation was that many national organizations focus more on developing the grassroots or developing the growth of the members from club level. So this makes sense, especially when government funding is involved. You have to be accountable and prove that you are growing the sport. And the priority for a national organization may be to have a handful or one really good archer go to world level and succeed. But that doesn't really justify the expenditure of whatever funding money you might get. And if you can prove that you can expand the sport by 5,000 members, then that's a bigger gain in the eyes of the bureaucracy rather than the gold medal you win. Gold medals are heroes, but you still want that one person to generate much more growth in that particular field. So many national organizations are focused on growing members, not so much on growing individual talent, and that's something which is a running theme we saw in our discussion on high performance programs. Um, so we also looked at we analyzed the Korean national team and why the Koreans are so dominant in archery. One of the things he debunked immediately is that Korea does not actually have a national system. What we mean by this is a standardized training program. If you, I speak from the Australian side. I know this for a fact. Australia puts out an official coaching manual. So to become a coach, you must be familiar with the standard approved coaching method. Um, what that means is that we have a system which, in some point or another, has been tried and true and proven to work. America, the USA, currently uses KSL, so the NTS is KSL shot cycle, so they have an official system. That part of his goal was to implement a national system to train more people in this method to generate a more reliable outcome. This is kind of controversial. I know some people have said that they would prefer to do it their way. That's fine too. But that was the goal. Now, Korea does not have a national system. What this means is that each archer to compete is not following a prescribed program. So the coaches who train these archers are teaching them what they know, how they do it, and how they think it works. The successful coaches are the ones who get promoted to higher levels, to higher tier competitions, to national level. So each archer comes in with a slightly different style. So you can't compare two Korean archers and say, I'm going to shoot like Korean archers. Because each archer is actually different. There is no Korean system. That's what I've learned from Kisik Lee. Now, what does make Korea work is a very heavily ingrained training regimen. Now, Jono, before you said before, it's facilities, not necessarily facilities. Elite training facilities doesn't necessarily promote that kind of growth. And I'll explain why the Korean context and what's different from Australia, America, and other countries. So, in Korea, archery is very much embedded as a school program. In fact, quite a few sports in Asian countries like Japan, China, and so on are very much ingrained as part of the school culture. There are no clubs in Korea. See, when we work in our context in Australia, the standard bottom level is a club, and same in the USA, it's the JOAD or the JOAD club, so the Junior Olympic Archery Development Program. Those are clubs; they're club level. So in Korea, they don't have clubs. Instead, it's the schools that train students to do archery. So students will join the school team. So from a young age, talking about, let's say, 10 years old, And by the way, another big factor is that the focus in Korea, and again, many Asian schools, is on competition and results, not recreation. In many Western cultures, including Australia, the focus is more on participation and recreation. And many of us are the same. We do archery for fun. Some of us will push ourselves to compete or go as far as we can, and very, very few of us see this as something we want to do as a profession, if that's even possible. But in Korea, it's all about competition first. Recreation is not even a thing. You don't do things for fun. That's a big mentality difference. So that was one thing that was happening over there. So at 10 years of age, the Korean archery students will spend 3 months working on technique. They will exclusively use a stretching band, and they will not be using a bow at all for the first 3 months. And we highlighted this again, this stark difference in how in Western cultures we want immediate rewards. When someone turns up at our club to do archery, we teach them how to shoot within like 15 minutes, and they can shoot for an hour, 2 hours, and just plink targets. We don't really train them on technique. That's something which we might do later on as they come back and want to show more interest in learning archery. But the focus is we want to get them shooting and reward them for hitting targets. Whereas the traditional method of training is not to shoot at all. Now, can you imagine? Can you imagine in our society? Let's say you've got a 10-year-old kid who says, Mum, I really want to do archery. Would this work if we gave them a stretching band and we didn't let them shoot? Not just for one day, but for like 3 months. No one would stay. Nobody would sign up. I wonder if my camera goes inside the light bulb in the way. Is that better? Nah, glare still glare. But nobody is going to stick around at a club if you're not allowed to shoot for 3 months. That's almost unthinkable, right? That was kind of my impression too when I was trying Kudo at my local club. And like in Kudo, you don't shoot the bow. You have to learn to kneel. You have to learn to breathe. You have to learn to meditate. You have to learn to walk. I'm serious. You have to learn to walk properly in Aikido. So these things come before the bow. You just spend months using the gomiyumi, which is the rubber band for the bow. And that you can't use a bow until after months of practice. You show you can use one. That's what they do in Korea. Whereas, of course, in Australia and elsewhere, you get the bow first. You don't use the stretching band. You get the bow first, and then they show how to shoot. You hit the target. Well done. Keep on doing it. So that's one big fundamental. Is from a very young age, from 10 years old, they're taught fundamental techniques without the bow. They then go on to shoot 20 and 30 meters. And I get one of the big things here is that the expectations are exceptionally high. Now, Kisik Lee gave me some numbers here. So they shoot 20 and 30 meters, and at 30 meters on the 80 centimeter face, a 12-year-old should be expected to shoot 330 out of 360. So for a 36 arrow round, they need to score 330. That is better than the majority of archers in the world. And that's just the 12-year-olds. I can't do that. I shouldn't feel ashamed here, but for most of us, getting that kind of consistency is a peak. The peak of your skills in archer to shoot, say, 330 out of 360 at 30 meters on a smaller face is the peak of ability. Back when I was being coached, that was what I expected. If you score 300 plus, you're doing okay. 330 means you're at the top level. But in Korea, 330 is standard. That's what you're meant to be hitting at 30 meters as a 12-year-old. When you're 13 to 15, when you're in middle school, you shoot 30 meters, you shoot 50 meters. And the standards are at 30 meters, you should be able to get 350 points at 30 meters. So even higher, 350 out of 360 points at 30 meters. At 30 meters, 350 points. Again, so few archers that regularly do it, people like you and me, can come even close to that. That's like compound level of consistency. And that's what our kids are doing. At 50 meters, that's 337 out of 316. So that's just to like rank, that's to get a podium finish. The top are getting higher than this. If you don't get this score, according to Kisik Lee and his analysis of Korean archery, that the result is you don't place. If you don't place, you don't win. That's the end. And at 16 years plus, 16 years plus, full distance, and that sort of thing there. Interesting side note is that at 13 and 15 years old, they only use Korean equipment. They're not allowed to use foreign equipment. So hence why you see the large prevalence of win and win, especially Samick in the past, but things like MK archery and win and win tend to be quite big in Korea for historical reasons too, due to the financial crisis in the 1980s. But yeah, as a rule, they can only use Korean equipment. Whereas once they reach full age, they can use anything they want. But it's more of an equity thing. Instead of spending big on expensive bows, they support the local economy through local manufacturers. Um, so ultimately, the end lesson here is that the secret of Korean archery isn't that they're talented archers or they have a very good training program or good facilities. Um, they have strong foundations. For 9 years, going from school to becoming a professional athlete, they've got 9 years of consecutive constructive training. That is tuition by a coach who is teaching them the correct methods from the very beginning. By the time they reach top level and national teams, the coaches don't teach them how to shoot. They already know how to shoot. They're just pushing them to perform to the best of their ability. They're not there to teach them to shoot. Whereas here, we think that the high performance coach basically picks the best archers and then push them to become better. Whereas in Korea, they assume that everybody who comes this far can already shoot. So that's a basic gist of it. Another big part of it too, again, just going from Jonathan's question before about the facilities, it isn't so much about the facilities as much as it is about the training. It's also about the professional support. Now, the thing to highlight here is that in Korea, there are professional team leagues. There are pro teams. You might think it's crazy of like, esports, but look, we've seen like K-pop idols have professional events that people love watching. And that's actually normal for Korea. They actually have official sponsored corporate teams which compete in a professional league. There's prize money. And the people who do archery in Korea are professionals. They get paid full time to train and compete in professional leagues and in international competition. They get paid a salary from the government and they get winning bonuses. So if they win, they get prize money. In contrast, very, very, very few archers anywhere in the world make money from archery. Um, Very few get paid. It's mostly amateur. Very few get paid. Some might have like government funded scholarships or like prize money or funded. Well, if you're winning, you get bonuses. But for the most part, archers are self supporting. There are some exceptions, and some people mentioned Brady Ellison actually makes a bit of bank from archery, but he doesn't do it from government funding. He does it from sponsorships. So he has his own brand, he has sponsorships from major companies, but he has to keep on winning. All right, so he must keep on winning to stay relevant to his sponsors and to promote his brands. Otherwise, very few other people can have the brand name attached to archery and make money from it. So people go where the money goes, and if governments and corporations sponsor professional events, you are more likely to see a rise in serious professional competitors. And it's just actually the same for many sports. I mean, if you look at certain countries and how they support their athletes in certain sports, you'll see the same sort of thing here. Archery is almost exclusively a Korean thing because of the way it's supported in Korea, a bit more recently in Taiwan. But most Korea is the best example of how you can embed professional quality by setting professional prize money, professional leagues, and therefore build the thing up there. Compared to other sports, Australia is well known for like cricket, rugby, swimming, kind of similar thing there. A lot of support for these sports. America, best example. Look, NBA, NFL. Oh, NFL's a bad example. So America's the only country who plays it really seriously. It's like the main sport there. But okay, baseball, basketball, ice hockey, to a lesser extent. The big five, but minus American football. These sports are very, very heavily funded. There's a strong culture in achieving results. In fact, in America, in most states, the highest paying job is professional coaches for college, for universities and colleges. The college coach gets paid far more than the academic staff in most cases, in most prestigious universities. And the research shows that often the highest paying job, full stop. So there's a lot of pressure and expectation on professional leagues and performance, either on the professional level or the college level. So that's that's the thing there. John has a point there. All top archers that you've noticed can kick around and jump between ends, but as soon as they hit the line, they become poised robots. Absolutely. Yes. So it's about the concentration of the archer. It's not so much the clear your mind. In a lot of martial arts and a lot of martial archery, the empty mind's a thing. Kisik Lee's fundamental approach is a bit different. Some people only shoot well with a clear mind, but what he wants to build is the understanding of process by concentrating on specific steps and repeating them correctly. You will have a more consistent result compared to empty mind where you have a calmness but you might be easily distracted by something else. You might be thinking of something else, you might be distracted by a form fault. Whereas if you follow the steps, you may tend to execute them in the correct order and timing because you are thinking about it. So it's an interesting argument on both sides there, but that's something he laid out quite well. But yeah, people who are on the line can be in the zone and go through each step of the process perfectly each time. And that's what he wants to drill in. And of course, once they're not shooting, they'll relax, they'll chill out. So once you're in the zone, you have to be in that cycle. You're following a cycle. It's a process. That is why they do so. They're not robots, but they are able to execute on demand. And that's the highest level of skill. Um, so there are a few more things about prize money and national team development leagues. But yeah, that's the notes from there. Um, let's see. Where you from, by the way? Just talk to hunting bow. Jimpa ring gun. Traditional. Is that Indonesian? I think I heard it before. Is it Indonesian? Let me know, by the way. We talked about the role of national governing bodies, breaking down to the development of high performance at athlete development, coach development, and grassroots and member growth. So it isn't just about working on one or another, but to give equal focus on all these things, especially the role of high performance is to grow these things. Again, most national bodies tend to focus on just member growth. More members means more money, means more stuff to show to government that, hey, fund us, give us more money. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the best quality. One of the things we pointed out was like a lot of grassroots clubs and like JOAD, for example, they don't produce high quality athletes at top level. Many of the top athletes go through other programs like scholarships, high performance programs, not from the rank and file, which is interesting. So there's some debate about what is effective in terms of bringing out high performance levels. And we're going to Vegas. That's not planned right now. Not saying I won't do it at some point, but at the current point in time, I'm not going. I am, however, I haven't announced this yet. It's not a secret. It's on the website. I am going to the Sydney Indoor Archery Festival. So that's the Sydney leg of the Indoor World Series. I'm already in Sydney, but I'll be going back to Sydney, back here, in January. So I've signed up for it. I'm going to organize. I like how I've done nothing but club shoots and then international competition. So I'll skip the entire thing there. I'll probably be terrible, but my goal is not be last. Who knows? I probably will be, but it's indoor. One interesting tidbit here: the role of the coach. So the archer, we have a Venn diagram here, right? So the archer describes what's happening, so they can tell you physically what's going on. Science will tell you why it happens, but the coach is what unifies both. They denote how it happens. So things like a bad arrow flight, things like a bad release. Archer knows what's happening. Science explains why it's happening. The coach needs to connect how this happens and how to fix it. Do I have JOAD? No, not in Australia. So JOAD is basically club level. So it's meant to be the club level for in America and the USA. Basically, the club you join to develop your archery skills. Especially in Olympic archery, that's the format they use. We don't have JOAD here, but our equivalent will be the club level. So it's not so well established, I think, in Australia. The pathway isn't as clear, but there's more opportunities to apply. There's a smaller, I guess, population doing archery, so it's really easy to get into high performance if you have the scores to prove it. But we don't have JOAD exactly as it is. We have clubs. Sorry, a little gas just there. Okay. How are we going for time, by the way? 46 minutes. Well, that's quite the stream. This is revision, okay? So this is what you do when you do call. Wait, what the hell? What's what the? Whoa! I've got like, okay, 5 more pages. All right, not bad. So look, as a student, all right, this is what you do. I'm telling you, if you're my class, especially in year 11 next year, and you're watching this, which you shouldn't be, it's late right now, but I'm serious. When you write notes down, you have to process, you have to create. Many people write a really rough first draft of notes and then they'll recreate a better draft later on. You have to recreate things. For me, I'm recreating through a live stream. I'm doing on video. I can watch myself later on and hear myself lecture to myself on how to do this. And by the way, if you're on my course right now, use my notes. No, but seriously, process notes. You want to learn and retain and do well in exams, you need to teach somebody else. So this is kind of my way of doing so. A little cheeky way. So, very brief overview on the biomechanics. So this is mostly on the KSL shot cycle and the NTS, same thing. Couple fundamentals. One, I actually might show this. I've got the trainer here, somewhere. Where's my trainer? Here it is. All right. So, one of the things that Kisik Lee talks about in the KSL or the NTS is a lot of people do this. A lot of people mention things like the barrel of the gun, which I couldn't explain properly, but I'll explain briefly how it works. So, in the fundamental structure in KSL is the barrel of the gun. So, in archery, according to his breakdown, there are 2 lines to follow. One is the arrow line, and one is what's called the barrel of the gun, which is the shoulder alignment. And the idea, let's get the angle here, is that let's say I've got an arrow. So the string is pointing my arrow here. So that's a draw, unload and transfer. All right. So when I'm facing you, that's the arrow line. But my shoulders form the barrel of the gun. So if I'm doing it correctly, I'll have the correct positioning. So there's an intersection of these 2 lines. I can't really explain it on camera right now, but that's the fundamental part of the KSL, is understand the barrel of the gun and the arrow line and that relationship. Good question here, Rami the Peep. I've been beating my head against the KSL system for 3 years. Look forward to seeing what you think about it. Oh, good. Jev, when you're using a clicker, how do you actually get the click to click without moving too much? Very nice. Clicker usage. So you need to set the clicker to your length. Now, to activate the clicker, you're not meant to pull through. In fact, you can use this as an example, right? So the KSL train, the gold train, I actually reviewed this years ago, which Kisik Lee saw his way and invited me in the first place. What happened was he gave one of these out. So every person in the course gets one of these trainers. This is a stretching band for the KSL Gold Trainer. I bought one of these 4 years ago. I reviewed it and demonstrated it. Funny thing was that we got one of these, and I've used this before. How do I do it again? I had to like YouTube myself, Google myself to find out how to use it. But it's a bit of a running joke there because he knows how I know how to use it. But this is used because what it does, it gets you to draw to a set length, your draw length. So you don't overdraw and you don't underdraw. You draw until you reach that point there, and then you anchor, and then you shoot. Now, the point of the clicker here is that you don't want to draw any further than your draw length, all right? So instead of going draw here, then pull further back, and it's probably say, I don't want to draw, then draw further. You draw to your anchor point, anchor, and then you gentle expansion, which means this arm's moving forward, this is pulling back with a gentle squeeze, and then it goes off. It is a very fine precision, very fine movement. So when you're starting out, and this is my personal opinion here, not so much like KSL, but when starting out, you might want to give yourself a bit of extra room. So you might want to set a short clicker and therefore have more room to pull through. So as you expand, you can feel yourself really getting your back tension in. Now, once your draw length consolidates and you know how long your draw length will be, then you can get that clicker in a little tighter or a little looser. Therefore, it's like a millimeter difference. So a very good archer who's well practiced will draw to millimeter perfection. They will not go a millimeter beyond that max draw length. They will not exceed this. And what this means is that they can draw confidently, anchor, expand, and release on the click. Now, someone who's less experienced will find themselves activating too quickly. They'll draw too short, for example, and therefore must go a little further, or they might draw too far and they'll get it wrong. But over time, that finesse is built up. Now, it's important, and many people don't do this, it's important to revisit the clicker length regularly, maybe every 6 months, all right? Because your technique will change, your conditioning will change, your flexibility will change. And if you don't pay attention to whether your clicker is set at the right length, then you may be trapping yourself into clicker panic without even realizing it. So that's how you activate the clicker. It's a very tiny move. You're already at full draw. It's a very tiny move. You can't even see it. But when you hit a click go, you can let go. I'm not using click off, I'm using a stretching band. But that technique is very important to understand. You draw, load, transfer, and then anchor. And then it's a very, very gentle squeeze. It will take a lot of time and practice to get this timing right. You don't anticipate it. You don't try to move it. You're already at full draw, and the clicker expansion is just a tiny bit more. Very, very minute movement, very internalized movement to get that clicker to go off. Hope that answered the questions there. Do I still have the vintage compound bows? They're in the club somewhere. I think one of our members has taken care of it. Not sure we still have it on premise. But the answer should be yes. We didn't get rid of them. Okay, final revision page here. One of the big parts is comparing shot cycles. I've got it here. Might as well talk about it. So let's see. So we made a comparison between the traditional shot cycle, the way people used to think archery is done, how shooting is done. And the idea is that you have a setup when you're about to draw, you draw, anchor, and then you release. It's basically most people, and a lot of people still do this. This isn't necessarily wrong, but this is a very old way of thinking, which KSL is trying to challenge. That is, the old method is set up, draw, anchor, and release. That's basically the process there, and that's been done historically. That's how you do archery. Like you don't go hold and aim and then let go. Most traditional historical archery is based off this instantaneous process where it's one continuous motion, draw and anchor and then release. That's true for trad archery, true for English archery, true for Turkish archery. You don't aim, you draw aiming happens and then you let go. That's a rough explanation. That's the old method of thinking. What KSL does in his cycle is insert several more steps to be more specific on certain elements. So the general idea here, there's a diagram on his website, which I can't show right now, so I'm on my mobile phone. But more to the point with KSL is you have the same process, but with more conscious steps. And just roughly speaking, there's the setup. So you have the slight amount of tension, you're in position to draw. You then draw, and you focus only on drawing. You then draw to this point here. You then hold. The holding phase is where you load. You load the amount of, well, the bow basically. You load it onto your shoulder and back muscles, and you transfer, which means you transfer from an external movement to an internal movement. It becomes a more mindset thing. So instead of going set up, draw, and release, it's actually more of set up, draw, load, transfer, anchor, aim, release, and follow through. So that's more of that that rhythm there. So more specific steps. It's actually the same process, but more specific steps, which is more repeatable. Again, more specialized for the target style of archery. And I kind of hurt a bit there. Another question here. What's your opinion? So this is, what's your opinion on creating an archery circle in my town, not being certified coach myself? Oh, okay. This shouldn't stop you. You got to start from somewhere, right? So if you can get coaching or some certification or some professional learning where you can learn how to teach people, then you're in a much better position. But you've got to start from somewhere. Don't let the lack of a coach stop you. Now, the main thing to consider, I guess, would be whether you are allowed to start an archery club or an archery group in your town. There might be certain requirements where you have to prove that you are safe, that you can teach people safely. That might be one thing. But it shouldn't stop you. In fact, I want to refer to my recent video on Archery Ascension, which is the local club in Melbourne. They don't have a coach. There are a bunch of very enthusiastic and passionate people who want to learn a traditional art of archery. So they don't have someone who can say you're a coach, because this is not an official system. This isn't an official sporting system where Archery Australia can go, you're qualified. This is a traditional historical style of archery. So they have no one to say, you're qualified. Any teacher, any master can go, I can teach. And that's part of the beauty of traditional archery, also one of the downsides, because you need a heritage, you need a lineage to show that what you've studied and what you were teaching is legitimate, effective, and accurate to what was used. But it's very much based on the teacher, not so much on a qualification. So it depends on what archery you're doing. If you're doing, for example, Olympic archery, then you may need more official training. If you're doing traditional archery, you don't need that. If you have that, that can help. There may not be an official way to teach. What's happening with Archery Ascension is that they invited other teachers. In this case, Ahmed Karat from Maidan in Sydney, here in Sydney. I forget I'm in Sydney right now. He came out to Melbourne several times to instruct the new team, and they can update it from him. So they basically learn from another teacher or another coach or another master, and they themselves pass on their skills to other instructors who become coaches who will teach. So that's the old-fashioned way of running things, all right? You don't need someone to say, here's a piece of paper to tell you how to do things. You've learned from somebody else, and then you would teach it in your way. That's kind of the old-fashioned way of teaching and coaching. So no, you don't need to be a coach to start an archery group, but it can help if you have some formal training from somewhere, either from an official organization or from at least a teacher. And if you can't get it, then invite someone to come to you. If you're just starting on your own with no training, well, that's a little different there. You might want some experience on how to run a club, how to set it up, how to shoot. But again, these things shouldn't stop you. I don't want to say you can't do it, but there are some challenges. We've reached the hour mark, by the way. So we've basically touched on all the things we covered in the first session. We also touched on biomechanics. So we covered things like tools, what the purpose of biomechanics is in sports science. We looked at kinematics and kinetics, and not going to go into too much detail. And we looked at Newton's laws and how they apply to archery. So Newton's first law, the law of inertia, the law of acceleration, the law of reaction. All these things apply in archery. Won't go into detail there, but understanding these motions are important to maintain a good shot process and especially balance. We also talked about posture, stances, eye control. So looking at how we see it in other sports, where the archer should be looking on the target. And we finally touched upon the principle of follow through and the principle of relaxation. And the last part there was interesting. Less input for greater result. So you don't want to work harder for a small result. You want to work less to achieve a greater result. And that's from relaxation. Archery is about relaxing. We actually teach people a lot in archery. You don't want to force things. You don't want to work hard to do this. It's about doing the least amount you need for the best results. And that's the first day. First day. Holy crap, that's a lot. So day two is going to talk more about the shot cycle itself. So there'll be a lot more detail. Thankfully, I've pre-read the stuff on Untitled Archery, so I should know a bit more about that. But yeah, that's the rundown so far. Like I said, this is quite an intense session. This wasn't a holiday where I kick back and just film people and do stuff. That's what I normally do actually, because I normally get invited to film things and kind of just share videos. But here I'm actually learning. I'm the one learning. I'm not the one teaching. I'm not the one promoting. I'm the one learning it myself. So I'm very much ready to kind of be in it for that purpose. I don't want to just like sit there and have a camera and film people and learn afterwards. No, this is the proper training. I want to take it quite seriously, so that's why I created the notes. So that's my revision. A good student can teach somebody else. That's kind of the process of KSL. Of any teacher, you can teach other people. We've got a few minutes remaining, so I'll take final questions. Thanks, by the way, for joining me. I know this is a weird time, but we've got some really good questions in chat. I've had a nice chance to reflect on this, and hopefully that's giving you something to think about. That's my study. That's my revision. I have been a good student. I have revised my notes. If Coach Kisik Lee asks if I've been studying, you can watch the live stream. I've been studying. Thanks, Coach. It's been good. It's been really, really good. I've been happy with this. And I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow's action. Wow. I'm disappointed. I can't find my Inside the Archer. I think I've lent somebody else. And I got like 5 copies from like various people from Tyler Benner, who was the co-author of Inside the Archer. But I think I lent my last one to somebody else and they still have it somewhere. The best book to read, very detailed. I like the actual original version because it's quite succinct, but the detailed version is something I do miss. I think I need to check over it. Last questions. Grab them. I'm just gonna pack it ready for tomorrow. 8 a.m. starts. So probably early wake up, some breakfast. It's about a 15-minute walk from here, so not too bad. Off the bus if I want to, but walk's not bad. It's only 15 minutes. Doable. Nice place. Alright, I think we've exhausted our activity today. Definitely have a bit more fun with the stretching band. Everyone's having fun with this type of thing because it's a stretching band, everyone's using this. But very effective training tool, the right technique. And I love this one because it does encourage you to use correct posture and I'm sorry, a little too short there, but yeah, it's very good at reaching that peak. I'm doing this quite a lot in my training and I adjust it a bit, think a bit more. But very effective training tool. And load. There we go, that's much better. So draw, load, transfer, and release. Excellent. Good. Alright, on that note, thanks for joining me. If you're watching this on demand and replay, then hopefully you enjoyed the whole thing. For those who joined me live, thanks for joining me. Maybe same time tomorrow. We might do it here, might do it somewhere else. But we did have time for more reflection on what I've learned so far. It's been a good opportunity. Again, thank you to Coach Kisik Lee for inviting me to come along. It's been a great break from what I normally do, and hopefully you will benefit as well. And that's something which we can all hope to gain on our own archery journeys. Thanks, guys. This is NUSensei. I'll see you next time.